As a retired corporate executive for a major international corporation, I know a thing or two about the value proposition. You know, people trading resources like time and money for a product or a service they feel is going to give them more value. As an example, if you're buying a new phone, you believe the phone is going to give you more in return than the cost of what you paid for it. In the online world of streaming or content creation, these same principles apply. People will trade their time and in many cases money if what you provide them is worth more to them than using those same resources someplace else, like a different live stream or watching that new Netflix hit, or maybe even buying a next latte. The question is, how can you get noticed, and can you provide value in your content quickly enough to capture that person's attention and then hold it for them to stay with you? One way to do that may be through an intro video that someone can watch at the beginning of your stream, or an intermission video, or maybe even just a featured video to play when you're not live. It's a strategy that I see some of the top streamers using, but I don't see anybody talking about it. For the recently launched Uncle Relic stream, I chose to focus on a creative way to tell my story so viewers could get to know me a bit better via a cartoon. Now, a key point about my cartoon is not only the final product, what you see pre-live stream, but the process I used to create it. So let me share with you a step-by-step of how I did it and what makes my methodology potentially unique. Having spent the past 35 years in sales and marketing, the last 11 with a multi-billion-dollar international household name, I might have a different perspective than others. So I hope you'll find this video beneficial. Let's jump into it. Now, before you start building your intro or your cartoon or whatever you're going to do, you need to determine what your live stream is going to be about. Then you should incorporate whatever branding you have. So these next steps are not specific to the intro, but something for you to consider. I first asked myself what my concept was and how it would add value to what others would be willing to spend resources like their time and their money on. My interests personally are in gaming, music, and my wood shop, but each of those single areas has strong competition. I felt that in order to be found, I'd need something unique. So I landed on two ideas. First is that my stream will focus on creativity and how it applies to each of those interests. I'll still game, I'll still play music, I'll do some work in my workshop, but each day I'll have a tip or a trick or an idea based on creativity that I'll pass along. Next, I felt like I had to determine what my online persona was going to be. So for me, that has to align with my values, which are based in family, citizenship, morality, not the way you might think of it, by the way, and service. That's where the term Uncle Relic came from, and you'll see how that plays out in my streaming intro. This is also a part of the daily stream. Essentially, I want to be the guy that any parent would be okay with if their child watched my stream. So not only will the content be clean, but I'll also add in some how to succeed in life type of content. So each live stream will have a creative theme and a success theme. It's too early to tell if it's going to work, but in my simple mind, I think it's a good strategy. In the world of business, every solid brand has certain elements that that company might use for recognition, for consumers to recognize what that brand is. It could be things like a sound or a variety of sounds. It might be symbols, could even be smells. In business, those items are generally formalized in what is called a brand book. They're formalized because it helps the business keep things on track, especially as they scale. As employees come and go, everybody knows what the expectation is and how to incorporate those specific things into advertising or marketing all of the things that go into the publicity for the company. So Uncle Relic right now is not a big brand, but someday I want it to be. So my next step was to create an Uncle Relic brand book. It guides the look and the feel of everything created under that Uncle Relic moniker. A brand book can include things like fonts and colors, unique graphics, the overall style, how to position items on a screen or in print, etc. It can also include things like a mission statement, affiliation requirements, a brand philosophy or a promise, and much, much more. Search online for a variety of companies' brand books for ideas on what to include in yours. For Uncle Relic, I kept it pretty basic with core colors, fonts, an avatar, a logo that's used for larger projects, and some basic graphic components that I thought would be appealing to my audience. After the brand book, determining what content style to use was next. What is a content style? Well, basically it's the medium, what the overall look and feel is going to be. Options I considered were live action video, a green screen video using mostly typography, a photo montage style, or an animation style, something like a cartoon or a whiteboard video or motion graphics. Determining what your base style will be is going to help you as you move through these next steps. As I've already mentioned, for me, I chose a cartoon. It was a slightly more complex process, but I felt it would give me more flexibility and help my content stand out. While those first steps weren't specifically associated with my cartoon, they were important for me, and maybe they'll help you too. Now, let's dive into how I actually made my intro. First thing is a storyboard. With the basics done, I started crafting a storyboard. Now, I'm not an artist, so what I drew out was really crude. I'm sorry I didn't save those drawings to share them with you, just so you could see how terrible they really were. They were bad. Regardless, I took it to my wife, who has much more drawing ability than me, and had her add some real character to my ideas. Now, if you can't draw or you don't have somebody close to you who can, you may have to hire this out. It's a really important step, and you need to get it right, as it's going to be the base for your final outcome. With that done, the next thing for me was to create a script. You should write a script for your storyboard. Now, you can do the storyboard first and then the script, or you can do a script and then the storyboard. I've seen it done both ways. For me, I work better once I have the graphics in place to spur that extra bit of creativity. You decide what works best for you. Now, your script is not only words, it's the actual storyline. In my cartoon, my script includes all the key elements, things like sayings or actions or even symbolism. It also included what I was going to say as the narrative in the voiceover. With your storyboard and your script complete, now it's time to work on the talent and the assets that you'll use in your final work. Now, I say talent because this may be where, if you don't have the skills to do it, once again, you're going to need to hire people to do it. I've always found the best use of my resources is to pay pros to be professionals and do what they do best. For the Uncle Relic cartoon stream intro, I needed to hire animators and illustrators. I also have a graphics and video guru that I work with regularly. You'll need to decide what your requirements will be based on your own skills and the gaps you'll fill with talent or other assets. To find that talent, it's best to work your referral network. My animation team came from a referral from my video pro. If you don't have a good network, there are many online resources that you can turn to, places like Fiverr, Behance, Upwork, and more. An online search will reveal a variety of sources. Now, make sure to give any person you're considering hiring a thorough interview. Look at their previous work to make sure it matches the outcome that you're expecting. For my cartoon, I wanted something that felt styled a bit like anime, but still me. Once my team was in place, we got to work in creating the finished product. However, this is where my process took a turn that I think is very different than most who would do something like this. First, I didn't hire my team based on a project rate. I hired them for a weekly rate with milestones in place for their payments. I knew that there would be revisions that I'd want to make all along the way, My personal experience is that no matter how well I plan, I always have changes that come from that inspiration during the process. So second, I set up a shared drive using Google Drive where all the files would be uploaded and saved. I required all of the original files for all the work completed every single week. This was part of the weekly milestone that was required for their payment. It gave me the assets in the event something happened to the team and gave me confirmation the work I was paying for was getting completed. The third thing I did that is likely different is I did not ask the illustrators for a finished product. Instead, I had them build my entire story in modules. I had several reasons for doing this. First, I wanted to have more control over the sound, the effects, the music, all of the nuances that I didn't think I'd be able to communicate to them virtually. The team wasn't local and there was a language barrier. So I felt that adding the sound and the music separately would give me that little extra bit of control. Second, and this will happen over time, but I'll create more modules. As the stream evolves, the stream intro will help establish the objectives for that day's stream. Meanwhile, the look and the feel will remain exactly consistent, but the content will be fresh. The idea was that this would add a bit of a sticky factor to the content, helping keep my audience engaged and potentially even looking forward to spotting the stream's changes for that day. Finally, I wanted the versatility to do a 5-minute intro, a 10-minute intro, or to just have the base part stand alone on its own. Creating the cartoon in modules allows me that flexibility. Additionally, because I have all of the original artwork, I can use some of the components in other parts of the stream, like transitions or alerts, etc. I even converted the main image into my desktop artwork to help me focus on my end game each day. So in the end, the animators completed an official storyboard, created the characters and all of the overall graphics, and then they animated the scenes, each as an independent module. I'll walk through each of those now. Like my first step, the animation team created their own storyboard. The team will use this as their guideline in creating the final product. So once again, make sure it's right. As you'll note, each scene is clearly laid out, though it lacks some of the final detail. Mine was in black and white, but I think each animator is different in how they storyboard, so your mileage may vary. Next was creating the Uncle Relic character, as well as Who, the owl, a symbol of all of those people who have had influence in my life, one of those little pieces of symbolism. Now, because my cartoon is only 2D, only 3 poses were required for the Uncle Relic characters. We needed a pose of the front, the side, and the back. We started with an avatar that I'd created previously, but changed it up just slightly. The feel I was going for in the main character was a happy older person, somewhat tired, yet still energetic. I gotta be honest, it was tough to convey that to the team, but I think we finally got there. Here's the progression from the initial image to the final. As you can see, the final was quite different than the first version. With time and editing, the team was able to get the final character to a point that worked for me. Next, the illustrators worked on the landscape, the desk, the elevator, all of the buildings on the street, etc., as well as how Uncle Relic is going to proceed through each of those. Now, in your storyboard, make sure that each of your scenes has a timeline associated with it. You will be surprised at how fast that time adds up. Now, also note that each image is part of a movement sequence. So any component that has movement requires a number of different images. For my final product, I had my video editor, Ronnie, do his thing. Now, at first, he didn't understand why I didn't have the animators just do this process. Over time, though, I think he got it. By the way, let me just give Ronnie a shout out publicly right here. He's genius, and he really works magic on everything I send him. For this project, it included assembling the modules or the scenes, adding in the sound effects, adding in the music, and then adding a voiceover well after the fact. Also, because of how I had the modules built, we were able to make some minor edits even after the animators were done. Ronnie and I work together closely, and we've developed somewhat of a synergistic workflow. He knows in many ways how my mind is working even before I do. So when it comes to a specific look or a feel, he's able to do that. He does a really incredible job in adding in those little extra flavors in whatever project we're working on. So thanks, Ronnie. So the final step for me was letting go of perfection. Now, this is difficult for me because I'm constantly adjusting or changing or rethinking a piece to try and get that ultimate outcome. I had to learn that what I put out there isn't going to be perfect, but if something is bad enough, I can change it in the future if I need to. The most important thing is to get it out there. And as I think about it, I guess that's true in all we do in life. So take that as a bit of Uncle Relic wisdom. Do your best, but get it done. So here's a link to my final video. How does the video make you feel, and what do the characters portray? Did you find some of my hidden messaging? Let me know in the comments below so I can see if my efforts got the outcome I was hoping for. And of course, if you like what you saw, subscribe with the alerts on so you're notified of future videos. And if you'd like to check out my stream, you can get all of the details in the link in bio in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you found some things today that are going to help you in your stream. And I look forward to seeing you in my stream. Relic out.